Good evening, social media and all the listeners of Mi Gente On Air. Thank you for tuning in tonight. It is Tuesday, 7 p.m., after 7 p.m., and we're going to start our live stream here today. And I just want to invite everybody to come on into the room and talk with our guests, ask questions. We've got a local gal here who is brought up and raised in the Saginaw community, and she's doing great things over at Hemlock Semiconductor. I'm not going to give you her name right now, but I think most of you will know just by that intro. So feel free to come on in and ask questions of me, ask questions of her, ask questions of WSGW as we promote positive images of Latinos in our community. And we do this Facebook live stream, and then we go into the radio programming, which will air on 8 p.m. on Sundays on WSGW 100.5 FM and 790 AM. So we're going to go ahead and break real quick, and then we're going to start the show. Thank you for joining me.
Welcome to Mi Gente On Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Good evening. Welcome to Mi Gente On Air, where we try to promote positive images of Latinos in our community. And as part of the great community of people that make up the Great Lakes Bay region, I'm happy to be here. I am your host, Larry Rodarte, and thank you for being with us today. I hope everyone is getting ready for the annual Cinco de Mayo, which is going to happen May 7th here in the Great Lakes Bay region. It's a return to our community after a 2-year hiatus. And it means that we have to rebuild our partners and our sponsorships. Sometimes that can be a little bit tough, but today we have our first event sponsor. I'm so happy that they are here with us today, Hemlock Semiconductor. And we know what a company it is in our community. They are the leaders of hyper-pure polysilicon used in solar panels and semiconductors in the United States. This sponsorship will help the Unión Cívica Mexicana bring back the parade and festival. And today we have their diversity and community liaison, Raquel Perez, with us. In her role, Raquel will partner with local organizations to build stronger relationships between Hemlock Semiconductor and communities in the Great Lakes Bay region. Let's welcome Raquel Perez to Mi Gente On Air. How are you, girl?
Thank you, Larry. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't think I've seen you throughout the whole pandemic.
I don't think we have.
Yeah, well, you're doing great things. I got a press release one day in my Mi Gente email, and it said that you were hired on at Hemlock Semiconductor. And I was like, whoa, that's really something. Hemlock Semiconductor names Raquel Ledesma, at the time, Ledesma, as diversity and community liaison. And I really think that's something for our community because historically, and I feel like I can say this because I've been doing Mi Gente a long time, and it was difficult to talk with and get into like the Dow Chemicals and the Hemlock Semiconductors and those corporations that may not have always recognized diversity. But we are now in 2022, and it's a great thing because they've hired someone like you have, who's totally, you just represent culture. Raquel is a girl I've known since before she was born, and I used to hang out with her aunt Norma and her father, and it was really something to see. you, she comes from a musical family, and her grandparents were over there playing at St. Anthony's Catholic Church way back in the day, both grandparents, and
Yep.
I knew them both. And I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago, but here we are, 2022, coming out of the pandemic. Things are better, and you're here, WSGW Studios, right? Did you think you're going to be here today?
I didn't think we were going to make it out of swim practice in time to make it here.
Well, Raquel is looking at looking at me mostly when she
sorry.
should look at the camera, right? But I think it's really important for our audience members, those who can ask questions. We're live streaming, right? I want you to tell them, who is Raquel Perez and where does she come from?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start, but thank you, Larry, for that wonderful introduction. I grew up here in Saginaw. I was born in Indiana, but I don't really, wasn't there very long. But I grew up on the south side of Saginaw, right on Cambry and Washington. My grandparents still have a big house there. They have one of the old lumberjack mansions. And I think what's really unique about our community in that neighborhood is that most of our family kind of lived there. My uncle lives down the road still. My mom lives next door to my grandma. I had an aunt that lived around the corner, two aunts that lived around the corner. So we basically just kind of walked to family events and family dinners because we were all just right there. But definitely grew up in a multi-generational community home. My mom worked third shift for a really long time. So in the evenings, my brother and I would stay the night with my grandparents' house, which again was just a walk away. So we had we grew up, with a really close and connected family. Still to this day, we're still very close with my grandmother. Even after my grandfather passed away, still close with my mom, my stepdad, and my brother lives in Flint now, but he still comes back. He's a barber now. Still come back, and we're just still very connected as a family. So love that. I love that we have that value, and I able to bring that into my own home, with my two sons, my husband, and with his family as well.
Well, wait a minute now. We got to talk about that because 2021 was quite a year for Raquel because
I did a
she
lot
got
of
married,
stuff.
she had a baby.
Everything in COVID you weren't supposed to do, I did it.
She did it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the challenges in 2021 and tell me about your personal life, girl.
Oh, man, I didn't know this was going to be a novella. So I mean, really, we just started, in when the pandemic happened. I went through a career change. I ended up at CMU for a little bit. When my grant ended, I ended up on unemployment, which was perfect because I was navigating virtual school with my son, who was in fourth grade at the time, and we did virtual school for the entire year. He thrived in it. I mean, he was in pajamas for the entire school year, but we win some, we lose some. He was a Loot Llama Pinata from Fortnite in his pajamas, basically every day. But we navigated that together as a family. But it was really an opportunity for us to just kind of, reconnect with our reconnect with each other, kind of create a supportive ecosystem for for my son, for our family overall, to stay safe. Because we wanted to Oh my, Larry, the rule that I got when I walked in was to turn the sound off, and you broke it.
Sorry.
So and then moving forward, my partner and I, we kind of decided early on, I think that this is we're basically stuck together. We're quarantining together as it is. So, we talked about, starting a family, getting married. And so we did all of those things. And in the meantime, I also got hired into Hemlock Semiconductor, which was a completely new experience for me. Everything that I had done prior to that was nonprofit education, something, working with youth or working in the community. And so to go into the corporate world to do something in the, what I thought was like in the middle of a cornfield, I'm like, I don't know what y'all do out here. I think you make silicone. They do not make silicone, they make silicon, which is an amazing product that I got to learn about. And I'm just completely amazed at how we are energizing our world and throughout our community.
Well,
Yeah.
that's something, because I know that I believe that every cell phone that is in the world has a connection to Hemlock Semiconductor.
We produce about 1/3 of the world's polysilicon in the world. So chances are in your house, in your phone, in your car, something electronic that you have probably came from Hemlock.
Wow, that's really something.
Yeah.
So you're a young Latina and you're hired in at this major corporation in our community. To me, it's like a first. To me, when I seen, like I said, when I seen that press release come through and they named you, as the diversity, in your position there, I was like, diversity and community liaison. Okay, now what does that mean? Because that tells me that they're trying to reach out and make a difference in inclusion and in diversity. And tell me a little bit how that happened. How did you even apply or come under your radar that there was that position?
I was trying to be a stay-at-home mom, and Fed wouldn't let me. Fed's like my partner. He wouldn't let me. So, I was
Husband now.
my husband now. He's my partner in crime. But I was on LinkedIn, and it just kept popping up for me. They're like, a job that kind of relates to something you might want to do. And so I thought it was fate because I kept ignoring it, over and over and over again. And I finally looked at the role, and I'm like, this is everything that I think that I want to do. Like I said, I came from nonprofit, I came from education. The whole community part of that position just really connected to me because, even, working in nonprofit or in some of the other jobs that I've had, I've always volunteered in my community. I've always given of myself because I thought that's really important. It's a really good value to have. I wanted to see, change in my community, and I knew that I had to be part of that change. And so to see that position posted, and it was really saying, hey, we want to connect with our community partners. We want to create a real relationship, not just a relationship on paper, but like a real, face-to-face connection. We value people. And so that part of it just absolutely sold me. And then the other piece of it is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, after George Floyd happened, I think that it just sparked so many conversations, and it just really, it woke people. Things are happening. Things are continuing happening. We were brushing things under the rug for so long in a lot of our spaces, and to see that corporations were taking a step forward and saying, be transparent. We have some work to do. I loved that. I read their sustainability report before I did my interview, and I loved how open and blunt that they were in their sustainability report that they have some work to do. And I'm so happy that I'm able to be part of that journey with them.
Yeah, and I feel the same way because, like I said, and I've said this, Chandler, how many times on this program, this racial reckoning that we had with the death of George Floyd, things have changed. Things have definitely changed. Even this program here, on WSGW, we have a program for Latinos. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cough from the dance this weekend at the Union Civica. I was at the door. I was stuck at the door, and all that cold air kept coming in at me.
We almost made it out the door, and then we fell asleep.
Well, employees at Hemlock Semiconductor are ready to have a conversation. You've said this before. They're ready to roll up their sleeves and make it a great place to work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the goal, right? To celebrate each employee's unique differences because there's, all walks there, and make sure everyone is included and treated with equity. Tell me a little bit about that because that is so important.
So, I mean, I think we need to break down all of the things. There's so many letters in this work. There's D, E, I, J, B's. There's so many letters. We're taking a focus on the D, E, and I part of it right now, and I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to just continue to evolve and to just do great things. But diversity, it's only one component. Diversity is just talking about, people and their differences, their uniqueness, their characteristics, maybe identities. You as a person are going to be made up of so many different things based on your experiences, your cultural makeup, your background, your family. So, to recognize that is one thing. And so that's the diversity piece. The inclusion piece is, how are we creating spaces? How are we creating environments where, people feel like they can, they belong, that they're, in a space where they can be their true selves, and, that they're feeling valued. And so, and the equity piece on that is, what are we doing to make sure that everybody is sitting at that table? Are we evaluating policies? Are we, looking at the barriers that some folks are facing? Because, when we come to work, we bring our whole selves. We don't just get to leave everything at the door. What can we do to help bridge those gaps for folks so that they can, be truly productive, be the best person at work, and then also their best person at home.
Well, you are really the person for that job because, like I said earlier, you're so full of culture. You know your music. You come from a diverse background, but center to all of that is family. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, we know this. Those of us who know you in the community, and part of what we had you involved in was the Hispanic Leadership Institute
Hmm.
a few years back, and part of why we developed the Hispanic Leadership Institute was so that young Hispanics could be at the table. They could be at the corporate level and not feel like they didn't belong there. And I was involved because I wanted to make sure and see that there was other Latinos that were being asked to sit on boards and to, be in a position that you are today. So I feel like, the work that we did with the Hispanic Leadership Institute, fruits are bearing, with
Oh,
Raquel
absolutely. I
Perez.
loved my experience with the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute, which, by the way, shameless plug, they're taking applications right now.
Hmm.
That I think for myself, I felt like I kind of already had a good connection at the time. Like, I kind of knew the major players in the community. I saw myself already involved, but what that really did is it really opened the door to just more. I didn't know how much more is out there, and still to this day, there's still so many things I just don't know about our the Great Lakes Bay region that they're just people are just doing great things. Organizations are just doing great things. But yeah, it definitely it opened doors. It created partnerships. It created relationships. And as far as leadership goes, I think it just kind of drove me to just continue to get involved. So right now I sit on the board for the YWCA, Great Lakes Bay YWCA. I'm involved with Henry Marsh. I'm on their board there, Henry Marsh Institute for Public Policy. That's through SVSU. I sit on the board for Michigan Works.
Wow, you hear that? A young Latino here in our community, and she's sitting on all these boards.
Yeah.
We need more of that. We need
Yeah.
more of that
And I
because
mean, like, and it's not even just, I'm just not sitting at the table. I'm also doing work, and I'm very active in my son's at Weiss Elementary School, very active in their PTO.
and he's at the Y. You just picked him
Yeah,
up
I just picked
before
him
you
up from the
came here.
YMCA. I have conversations with the YMCA going on right now on behalf of Hemlock Semiconductor. And, I graduated from SVSU, and I love my alma mater. So anytime I can volunteer there, I finished 5 years on the alumni board there last year, the year before. So I really believe in everything that we're doing in our community.
You're busy. You
Hmm.
definitely are busy. I was at a meeting maybe 2 months back with the previous CEO,
Hmm.
Mark Bassett, and I remember how, who by the way is on the program, United Shades of Gray with Kareem Bowen here on WSGW, and that's part of the reason why WSGW has taken 9 Michigan Association of Broadcast Awards this year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Mark, I remember how the message of having a workforce reflective of the community. He said that in that meeting, and they were going to work to make that happen from the top down, not just the employees, but the
Hmm.
employer, from the top down. Have you seen that this year that you've been there now a year? Have you seen maybe because now you got a new CEO.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So we're definitely on this journey. I think what's important for folks, anybody that's doing this work, to know that these things don't happen overnight. It takes time. If you're gonna do it, you got to do it right. You just can't go in there and just say this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna knock it out to tomorrow, and we're gonna move on to the next thing. It doesn't happen like that at all. And what I love about this is that we're doing it right. We're looking at where we need to. Again, Larry left
My phone
his
on.
phone on again, completely throwing me off of my vibe.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, but no, the conversations are happening. We're piloting our first training tomorrow, for our site. We talk about, how we're making it reflective of our community. Before our previous CEO, Mark Bassett, left, we had a huge integration. We had this temp agency that, had folks on payroll for, I don't know, 10 plus years, it
Yeah.
seems like. And we brought them in. Now they are part of HSC. They are part of our one team. They're part of our family. So I think that's the one of our first steps that we've taken into this road. But I know, I don't think that we've hit any barriers necessarily in this space. I know that they're going to happen. We're all human. I think there's a lot of questions. But what I love about it is that people are asking.
Yeah.
They're uncomfortable and they're asking. And I think that's just a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, we're having those conversations today,
Mhm.
and I got to hand it to Kareem. I mean, he's one Kareem Bowen. He's
Mhm.
part of this conversations that with his shows here on WSGW, and he asks those questions, and he's part of with working with Hemlock
Yeah,
Semiconductor.
he's
Yes.
a great community partner for us. A great friend. I even consider him a friend, just because we've connected on so many different things. He's a great advocate for all of the work we're doing, and I'm just, and just him as an individual, he's just doing great things in the community as well.
Yeah, and yesterday I got an email from you too about the scholarships. And
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that, because that's so important. And I want my community, I'm talking about the Latino community here. I want the leaders of the Latino community, whether whatever organization you're with, whether you're with the Unión Cívica Mexicana or the Max Center or the American GI Forum, we've got to get these messages out about these scholarships for our young people, because they can apply to these. And this is something that you're involved with that. And I know that I got the email and I said, oh, we got to spread that information.
Yeah,
So
so we have a long-lasting relationship with Michigan Tech University. I can't remember how many years. I still feel like I'm a newbie. I've only been there for a year, and then when I had my baby, I was off for a few months, and then I came back, and I feel like I'm starting all over again. But we sponsor 30 summer camp scholarships to go to Michigan Tech University, which is in the Upper Peninsula. It's about 6 to 9 hours away from
yeah.
Saginaw. It's quite a bit of ways, but we pay for the transportation to go there, the housing, the food, the scholarship program itself. And we have, like I said, 30 spots available, and we have it for, Saginaw Bay, Midland, Gratiot counties, and they're for all of our students. And from just kind of when I just started here, we've kind of struggled to get, those spots filled.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure what it is, what is it we're missing, but I'm hoping that this year that, we can continue to spread the word and we really get a good turnout, especially from our Saginaw schools. I would love to see more students from Saginaw go to this program and
Yeah.
apply.
What do you think is part of it, because of COVID, or is it just maybe the long distance of Michigan Tech? I mean, it could be
It
either.
could be a handful of things. I was thinking about it. If my son Gary asks, hey, I want to go to Michigan Tech for the summer camp, the Latina mom in me is like, do I want to really let my baby go all the way up north?
Send them. Yeah.
But it's a great opportunity, to explore, see what's out there. I remember, going to Saginaw Valley and then, making friends in other universities, and then going to those universities afterwards and saying, wow, there's a whole world out there that I didn't know because I've been stuck in this bubble in Saginaw.
Yeah. Well, I remember many years ago, and I'm talking probably 15 to 20 years ago, the Mid-Michigan Hispanic Business Association, that's what we were called back then. And then we later became the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Business Association. But we actually went to Hemlock Semiconductor, had a tour. There were probably about 20 of us business folk. And we had a meeting there, and we had to go through all kinds of security, I remember. And but that's what I remembered about Hemlock Semiconductor. And I'm seeing now a greater conversation, across the board with this company. And I'm seeing, when you talked about the temporary temp service and that, and I'm seeing individuals on Facebook who are now graduated to beyond that and have been hired without the temp service to Hemlock Semiconductor. They're making posts about it. I mean, they think it's wonderful. So, things are definitely changing, and that's what's so important. And you said it earlier when you said, conversations are being held, and that's what's important. As long as we're at the table and conversations are being held, then I think that's a positive for not only us as a community. I'm talking about the Latino community. I'm talking about the greater community.
Oh, absolutely.
That we're a part of, the conversation. So, we're going to go into break here in a little bit, but I want to talk much more about Raquel and her education. I want to talk a little bit about Youth for Understanding, because you kind of changed my life, with what you did there. We're really going to talk about that. Youth for Understanding. That was
apologize for anything I've done.
That was your previous employment, but there's so much. We've got this young Latina here in our community. Like I said, she was raised here in Saginaw. She comes from grandparents who are musically inclined. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And there's just so much to talk with Raquel Perez, because she's doing some great things at Hemlock Semiconductor. And all we can do is cheer for her on the sidelines and engage with her in those conversations, because that's what we want. We want to move forward. Adelante, mi gente, right? And isn't that si se puede and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for being with us here, Raquel. And we're going to go into commercial and talk so much more with this young vibrant Latina. It reminds me of that song by what was This Girl's on Fire. This girl is on fire. Yeah. Who was that singer?
Alicia Keys.
Alicia Keys. There you go. I think it's really important, especially if we have people within your family, because you got a young family, and hopefully they will watch this show. They will be inspired. They will get an education, because this girl is nothing but education in the last 10, 15 years, right? And she's now working on her doctorate. Can you believe it? So let's come back from commercial and we'll talk more with Raquel Perez.
This is Mi Gente On Air on WSGW.
And so we're back here on this live stream. Thank you for those of you who are joining us. I don't see too many questions tonight, Chandler. Do you got everything working and operating?
Everything's working, but you got to tell them that you got to keep pushing them.
Yeah, we got to keep pushing our audience.
We need some questions.
We need questions for Raquel Perez. We knew her for so many years as Raquel Ledesma, sometimes Lola. And she is Raquel Perez now. That's the name you're going by. But, she's in a great, unique position there, representing our community and just doing a great job for the greater community. And we got a chance to speak with her here tonight with representing Hemlock Semiconductor as one of the event sponsors for the Cinco de Mayo that's happening on May 7th. So thank you, Hemlock Semiconductor, for sponsoring that and being a part of that. And I know you had a lot to do with that. So thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna come back into the show here, and Chandler, I want to make sure that we have the the ability to have people ask questions, right?
We do have the ability for people to ask questions. Come into the comments, ask a question about anything. Like, what color is the sky? Anything. Just ask some questions, because Larry gets antsy and then he checks his phone to make sure Facebook is working.
And then that's where you hear the volume going up and messing up her vibe, right? So, okay, I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
You're listening to Mi Gente On Air on WSGW.
Welcome back, mi gente. As always, I'm here Giving you the live stream feed with Mi Gente On Air. We are on radio on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on WSGW 100.5 and 790 AM and 100.5 FM. Just want to clarify that. And we're here tonight talking with Raquel Perez, who is the diversity and community liaison for Hemlock Semiconductor out there in Hemlock. And we've got a great conversations going because this girl, like I say, is doing a lot. She's a mother, she's a wife, she is in her capacity a leader within our community. And I want to know kind of how she got there. And I'm talking about in regards to her education. So tell me from high school on what has been your trajectory in your education?
So I graduated from Heritage High School. I was a Hawk. And I was first generation college student. I didn't have a lot of guidance. I had the family support. Yes, my baby girl's gonna go to college, but nobody really sat down with us and explained to us what that looks like. So we had to figure that all out on our own.
Yeah.
It's all about those community connections. I remember Sabrina Velasquez, who was our admissions rep from Saginaw Valley at the time, and she really sat down with. It was me and grandma. Me and grandma sat down at the SVSU office trying to figure out financial aid, the application process, ACT and SATs, and all of those things. And it was quite the journey. Again, being first generation was it was difficult, but it was also a sense of pride as well to be that first in your family to do all of the things that your family had worked hard for to make sure that happened for you.
Right.
So I went to school. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I'm still trying to figure that out. I I ended up graduating from Saginaw Valley with a degree in Spanish. Now, ask me if I speak Spanish fluently.
Do you speak Spanish fluently?
I am trilingual.
Trilingual.
We
all
try.
right. We try.
We try. We grew up in a household where Spanglish was was a thing. You got your question in Spanish and you responded in English.
And here, all your grandparents spoke fluent
Mhm.
Spanish. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So then after SVSU, then you got your master's.
Yep, I went on to my master's degree. I knew I wanted to do something still. I wanted to do something greater, and it was perfect timing. It just worked out. So I did that, and then I thought I was going to take a break. And then I had a conversation with one of my girlfriends, like, "Hey, let's apply for this program." I'm like, I'm not going to apply for this program. So I did half of it, and then I got a phone call later. They're just like, "Hey, if you finish the application, we'll do an interview with you a couple days later." And I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll do that," but I'm not going to do that. I think it's the GRE test. So we did the interview. We did we did. I finished the application. I didn't think I did my best work because I wasn't ready to do it, and lo and behold, I got accepted into this doctoral program.
Wow.
And I was like, this is kind of cool. This is something new. This is something different. I knew it was something I wanted to do down the road. I just wasn't ready for it at that time. And that program itself has been absolutely life-changing. It's I feel like every course that we took, I could apply it to everyday life in my workplace. I knew that I wanted to do something greater, and what better way to do something greater than to research it, find the gaps and develop a plan to make it better.
Well, sí se puede. I mean,
So-
you are really out there doing your thing, and so I congratulate you and say adelante, push you forward, because we need more like you in the educational realm, and that you're going to be able to represent us and do really well in whatever you do because of your education. So we were getting some really good feedback here now from people. Now they're awakening. We have our community awakening here, and I've got Joseph A. Guevara. He is from Saginaw originally, but now is out in Texas near San Antonio. Well, lived in San Antonio and now is in Georgetown. But he says, what are the qualifications needed for the Michigan Tech summer camp?
Oh man, I wish I would have did my research before I came on. We're looking for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. I know that they're looking for teacher recommendations, GPAs to a certain degree, but just because you don't have a 4.0 doesn't mean you can't get the scholarship. But they're looking at all the things. It's a competitive scholarship if we do have enough applicants for it. But I think the most important one is we're looking for those in our community. We want them from Great Lakes Bay region.
Mm-hmm. And I remember reading that they're really targeting the 11th grader
Hmm.
for that scholarship, and for obvious reasons. But I also want to mention Lupe Zamora from Bay City here. He says, I would like to know, what is she doing in terms of to help a college graduate, or where can they go to get help to find a very good job in their field?
So, I mean, I've always had an open door with anybody that I've encountered. I have several mentors I think that I've crossed paths with in my life. If anything that I can share on my experience on my journey, I definitely do that with my community. I've recently, I mean, it's nothing super official, but Carmen Stricker and I are really good friends. Carmen Stricker is the new director for the KCP program over at SVSU, who's also in the doctoral program at Central Michigan University. And we created a Facebook group and we called it Chingonas y Scholars. And it's all about, helping Latinas, helping our mujeres in the area, to do better, to do more. If we can offer that advice, say Latinas looking for experience in their field, maybe connecting with somebody in that field, we want to make that happen. We want to, at least provide that connection, that resource for them, so that way they can be successful. Because we feel like we're not successful unless everybody else is successful too.
Yeah. So Lupe, you can't be in that group.
You can absolutely be in that group if you want to.
But your daughter can. Yeah. And then we also have Sabrina Duran. I just want to mention this comment because she says, hello, Lola. She's calling you Lola.
Mhm.
You are a great inspiration for our community as a Mexican Latin leader.
So I just have to toot Sabrina's horn because I recently ran into one of her coworkers. She's at Dow now, and they absolutely love her. So the love and the leadership is spreading in our community, and I just want to say, like, kudos to Sabrina. Sabrina's doing some amazing things too over at Dow, and some of the work that she's doing.
Yeah, and we also got an email from Dow that they want to participate in our Cinco de Mayo parade. So that's really
That's
exciting because
awesome.
we really hadn't had that before, believe it or not. And so I'm really encouraged to see corporate America is getting involved with the annual Cinco de Mayo in Saginaw, and I hope everybody's getting ready and producing their floats, because that's what's important. We want to have floats in the parade, as well as I've been trying to push for bands to get in the parade so that we don't just have vehicles with banners on the side coming down Michigan Avenue. We want to actually make it a beautiful parade, and it was really encouraging to see this last weekend, the St. Patty's Day parade and the
Mhm.
run. My good friend Bridget Staffolino is a part of that, and they had a phenomenal day. It was the weather was like 60 degrees, wasn't it, or something? And in the past they've had it where it's been really cold, and
I
that's
remember doing that Irish double before, and it's freezing.
yeah.
It's not fun.
Well, that's so neat. That's so neat, though, that they had a great day, and it was a great event as always. And I also want to mention Laura Chapa. She's on here. Chapa. She says, amazing accomplishments, Raquel, and relatable in not having family guidance and support because of being first generation college student. How do you share your experience now with the Latino youth?
Again, anytime that I can get in front of somebody to mentor them, to share my story, I absolutely do it. I consider myself as a servant leader. So I actively look for ways to engage with my community. And sometimes I think I overextend myself. I don't know how to say no, but I think it's important. I think it's important for our entire community to hear these stories, to hear these challenges, these journeys, because they're unique. Not everybody has the same journey, but if you can take away one little thing from it and you can better yourself, I think that's what we want to do. So again, I try to involve myself in a lot of different ways, and if I can engage with somebody, I will definitely do it.
Well, we're definitely going to develop a program, and we're going to have you come over and talk with some youth at the Unión Cívica Mexicana, and really try to make a difference. That's part of what it's about, having that conversation. And it doesn't mean just with your conversation with professionals. It means conversation with the youth to try to make a difference in their lives and give them encouragement
Yeah.
to
And
move
it's another
forward.
thing too, is you got to keep it relatable. You can't just like, just beat around the bush with stuff. You got to say, tell them the truth. This is how it really was. This was hard. It's not all rainbows and butterflies and in some of these spaces that you go through. It's hard work, but if you can, push forward, you have that grit, you have that resilience, man, you can take over the world.
Yeah, talking about the world. Raquel used to work for a company. It was called Youth for Understanding. And I'm over there, many of you know, I'm over there at the Unión Cívica Mexicana making patitos on Thursdays and Fridays. We make the deep fried taco, kind of similar to what El Gaito did, my Uncle Felix. And one day I got a phone call from Raquel
No,
on
no,
one of
no.
those
This
days.
is what happened.
Let's talk about it.
Larry called and said, "Hey, do you want to order some patitos?"
Oh, okay.
And for the whole office. And I said, "Okay, Larry, we'll order some patitos. The whole office will order patitos if you host an exchange student."
Wait, I'll tell the story a little different. So yeah, okay. Either way, the conversation was there. I made a phone call expecting to get a sale with patitos, right? Because she had previously ordered them with her
And we
company,
loved them.
and they loved them. Yes,
It was
and
a very easy sell.
and she said, "I need your help, though." And I'm like, "My help with what?" And she says, "Larry," she says, "I have to have a certain quota in terms of placing exchange students from around the world here in our Saginaw community." And I said, "Okay, well, how can I help you?" And she says, "Well, would you be willing to take an exchange student into your home and live with you for 10 months out of the year?" And they would attend a high school here in Saginaw. And I'm like, she's kidding, right? I'm trying to sell patitos. But lo and behold, to make a long
I was
story
selling an
short,
experience. You're
yeah,
welcome.
yeah, and this is how good she is, Hemlock Semiconductor. This is how good she is. She sold me on the idea for exchange students, and I ended up having how many? 8, at
Yeah,
least 8 over
had
a period of
several.
about
Yeah.
5-6 years. But you know what it did? It opened up my eyes again to the beauty of traveling abroad. I did it a lot in my youth as exchange student myself when I was 20 years old at MSU, study abroad program, and then it opened these doors where I went to Italy again, and I went to Croatia this last summer for 2 months, and I've got families all over the world now,
Mhm.
and one of them that we both had really experienced a lot with was Henry from
Yep,
from
from
Finland,
Finland.
who is now getting married here in Michigan after meeting a girl at SASA, Hope, and they're getting married this coming summer. And they're going to stop my plans from going back over to Europe because I have to be here for the wedding. But,
Yeah.
it's really something because you really learn about culture and diversity and in different cultures. And it really awoken the bug in me again.
Mhm.
So thank you for that, even though it was under false pretenses because she was trying to buy patitos.
You know what though? Larry had a great experience. I'm sure everybody that got to meet his students had a great experience with them, because those students that came over, especially the ones that live with Larry, they even with me, they didn't just get an American experience, they got a Mexican American
Yes,
experience.
they experienced Dia de los Muertos, the tamale taste,
Everything.
Guglielmo from Italy, and Marino from Germany. I mean, we just had a blast with these kids, right? And we're talking 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And like I said, I have family now in all these different regions in the
Mhm.
world. And so when you see me traveling across the world, I'm usually going to one of their
Mhm.
homes, and they're hosting me. So it was
Yeah,
quite an
it was an
experience.
experience. I will say my best story with Henry though, is he complained about me living with me because I only made Mexican food. And I didn't realize that. I had no idea that I really made Mexican food every single. We basically had beans, rice, and tacos every day, or tostadas, or some kind of combination of
Poblano,
something.
yeah, I
But it was
remember.
always rice and beans. And the very first day I made him pot roast, he was like, "This is a proper meal. Thank you."
That sounds just like Henry.
This is a proper meal. And and it was one of those things where I didn't know. Nobody had brought it to my attention that this was, I was, sharing my culture with him, and I completely was oblivious that he was, in culture shock with the food that we were giving him.
But I would really encourage anybody who can host an exchange student, do it.
It's a wonderful experience.
Not only for yourself but for your family, because you can learn so much from people from different cultures. And
What's really awesome about this program too is that it's here in Saginaw. This organization, it's a worldwide organization. Their US headquarters is here in Saginaw. And I don't think folks realize that we have this beautiful gem here that started
Mhm.
actually in Ann Arbor, but they're headquartered right here in our backyards. So I mean, if you have that experience, absolutely reach out to Youth for Understanding or another organization. But it's an amazing, life-changing experience for not just you, for your entire your family and your community.
Well, Angela Blanco says we love our boys, and she got firsthand experience with many of them because as a relative of mine, I would take them
Hmm.
over to her house or whatever. But you know what? We're supposed to be talking about Hemlock
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Semiconductor.
sorry.
Here we
We
are
went down a
talking
rabbit
about
hole.
your past employer. But anyways, that was a great connection that Raquel and I had, and I think our relationship went from me knowing you before you were born,
Hmm.
to an adult professional that I respect and that I am grateful for, because it did change my life during that time, and I was able to really experience the world again the
Hmm.
way I really have envisioned and wanted to. But I also want to talk to you about your musical background, because I do have to give homage to your grandfather, Rosendo
Oh, thank
Alanis. I
you.
mean, he really was
Yeah.
somebody in our community, and he was 90 years old,
Yep.
and he was still driving. I would see him always at the restaurants, or he would
Yes,
come to the
he
Civica.
was. Yes, he was a restaurant groupie. Loved the Big Boy. The Big Boy was his favorite spot. And you couldn't miss him. He had this iconic cowboy hat.
Yes.
He always wore his vest with it, and he was a character.
But would you say that I mean, your musical talent, because lo and behold, many of you don't know, and many of you do know, Raquel is a singer. She sings beautifully, and I would have asked her to sing on this program, but she's not prepared tonight. But she's always prepared, right? But did that come from both your families? Because I
Oh,
know
absolutely. So,
Jose Ledesma was your
yep.
grandfather. He played at St. Anthony's, and Rosendo Alanis was your grandfather, and
Yeah.
they played guitar every Sunday. And then your mother's a singer, a
Hmm.
phenomenal singer.
Yeah. So, my grandpa, Alanis, he was, one of the very first, people to, work with St. Joe's, start rondalla, to bring all of that music into the church. And then when those communities just started growing bigger, that's when they kind of split off, and then they continued and shared that love with St. Anthony's, which is now St. Francis of Assisi's. So myself, I grew up in that music. My mom, she grew up in the music. She learned to play the guitar. I always say I'm a advanced beginner. I can play guitar too, but I can't play F's and B's because my fingers just don't reach far enough. But we got all that experience, and we learned how to play those instruments from the church. We learned how to play those church songs, and it's great. It's great to see that we had that love on both sides of the family, that and we contributed to our to our culture, to our church culture as well.
Yes.
It made a huge impact. Today my grandmother and we go to St. Joe's now, and we sing in the choir at St. Joe's now with under Matt Fluencio.
Wow.
So
That's
it's
awesome.
continuing on.
Well,
It's beautiful.
I wanted to mention your grandfather because, he was one of those that we lost during the
Hmm.
COVID pandemic, but he truly was, somebody who I would see out there in the community, and he would ask questions. And in like very few in our community that are over the age of 90 actually have Facebook pages,
Oh yeah,
and he would make
man.
comments. I would write something up, and he would make a comment. I'm like, where is he going with this? And I would say, Raquel, you better talk to your grandpa, but he was just really,
He
just
was very proud of his Facebook, and he had a YouTube page.
he did.
He had a YouTube page. Yes, he would he'd get some people to record him, and he'd post those videos on YouTube.
Wow.
He'd pull songs out. He played the guitar every single day, and he'd pull songs out that he learned when he was young, when
Yeah.
he was first learning to sing, first learning to play the guitar, and he'd record those songs. He'd go on Google because he was very savvy on the computer. He went on Google and he'd find the lyrics to these songs, or he would Google on YouTube somebody singing these songs, and he'd play them himself.
Wow. Well, like I said, it's amazing. I know my Aunt Della Chantaka.
Hmm.
She's on there. She's 90 years old, so kudos to them that, are, because it is a generational difficulty. There's a generational difficulty there
Yeah.
sometimes. And, kids today, you can put a 3-year-old in front of a computer and they know exactly what they're doing and how to run it. But, it takes a little bit longer for us older generations, But I want to say that Sandra Corral this is amazing. Raquel, saludos de Chicago. So you've got Chicago,
Oh
you've
yeah.
got Texas on here, and
We got California on here too.
Shay Martinez says, can you talk more about the Michigan Tech Scholarship? Okay, so
Yep.
she wants us to be quiet about all the other stuff and talk about Michigan
Fine.
Tech.
No.
All right.
I will definitely I will give it to Larry so Larry can share it on his Facebook. But it's a summer camp. It's a summer camp to for future engineers that are interested in learning a little bit more about that field. It's a year or a year. It's a week long. We pay for the housing, the food, the transportation to go to the UP, to go to Michigan Tech, and we have 30 applications available for it. And so it's for the Great Lakes Bay region. So I really hope that folks consider and apply. 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. They're really hoping for more 11th graders, but everybody that I've encountered that had a great experience with that program, it's just phenomenal. The thank you letters that I saw last year were just amazing. Those kids had a blast.
Well, Shay is musically inclined as well. She's the daughter of Anthony Martinez. And so, Shay, I encourage you to check out, send me a Facebook message and I'll link you up with Raquel here from Hemlock Semiconductor. As the event sponsor for the annual Cinco de Mayo, an event sponsor is our big top-notch sponsor for our annual event. And Hemlock Semiconductor is the first to sign on, so I'm really thankful for that. Tell me, what are the plans that you have, because you're probably leading this up, for the parade and the festival this year representing Hemlock Semiconductor?
So we are looking forward to taking some folks to the whole experience. We haven't really talked about the float building just yet, but I know that it needs to happen. I've had many experiences building floats, and it's a whole process. Building flowers does not happen overnight. That's a whole commitment in itself. But I think more importantly too is we want to just make sure that our name is out there. We have, you can see that we're branded, that we're involved in our community. And I think that, just moving forward, especially now that we're, things are getting a little bit more safer, folks can engage more, that we're going to continue to just engage with our community. And what better way to kind of start off and kick off the summer, the springtime than with the Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. And this Cinco de Mayo, it is the 43rd annual, even though we missed the last two. And so, we're going forward, we're coming out of the pandemic, and thank God we're able to do this, because it would have been 3 years that we didn't have the parade. And I think that's really something for the mentality of our whole entire community, to witness these, like the St. Patty's Day run and their parade and our parade. It's really important. And I'm so glad that Hemlock Semiconductor is going to be a part of that this year. And I think it's really important, when we look at it in the bigger scheme of it, the conversations that we talk about having, and we talk about, you representing Hemlock Semiconductor, coming up with an idea how to build a float that is going to represent them in the Cinco de Mayo parade. Can you imagine the volunteers that have never been a part of Cinco de Mayo? They're going to have a great awakening, because they're going to say, wow, I didn't know I had this in our community.
The whole experience. I mean, I feel like Cinco de Mayo is one of those staples in our community that you either know about it or you don't. But the folks that experience it for the first time, it's so magical. We have so much to offer in our community. And I think that La Unión Cívica just does an amazing job of making sure that our community can experience the Mexican American culture firsthand.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's exactly why we're here and we're talking. I just want to mention that Joseph Guevara, who was from Saginaw, like I said, now living in Texas, he says, I attended the Michigan Tech camp and have worked in the semiconductor industry for over 30 years. Keep encouraging the young generation. So thank you for that comment, Joe, because that's what we need to hear. Is we need to hear from our community. And Laura Chapa, she asks, is the Michigan Tech program exclusive to the Saginaw community?
No, it's for the Great Lakes Bay region.
Oh, okay. So that includes Bay City and Midland.
Opportunities outside of the Great Lakes Bay region, I'd be happy to connect with you one-on-one just to talk about, other opportunities, because the camp that we're talking about, it's really, they get folks from all over the country that go to this.
Wow. Okay. We're going to have to talk about that. But we're running out of time here. We got less than 30 seconds for this show. I want to just thank you for being with me today, because I know it's been a while that we've talked and we said you were going to be on here. But thank you again to Hemlock Semiconductor for all that they do in the community. And thank you for being a sponsor for the 43rd annual Cinco de Mayo. And thank you, Raquel Ledesma Perez, for being who you are and representing us so well.
Thank you.
Until next time, thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Mi Gente On Air. Hasta luego. That was the end of the show whenever he did this.
Oh,
So, but we still got a few seconds here.
okay.
We're still in the live stream now here with our live stream audience, and we had some really good questions here after
Yeah.
we got them motivated to talk. Lupe Zamora is saying right now, very, very good interview. Thank you for sharing. Kim Belfort says, awesome interview. And Shay Martinez, the young girl who has Anthony Martinez says, my boyfriend is currently enrolled in Michigan Tech, and he absolutely loves it.
I am so happy. We had a great relationship with we have a great relationship with Michigan Tech. We actually recently brought them to Arthur Hill last week, or the week before, and they did a whole program with their high school students, and it was like kind of last minute, but it was amazing just to make those connections for them. And they did a whole activity with them, with their students during their spring break. It was awesome.
Well, I hope that Mi Gente on Air, this show can really be that information vehicle that can get the message out, especially about something like the Michigan Tech experience that Raquel and Hemlock Semiconductor are pushing. It's important, it's important that our young people, and I am talking about the Latino young people right here, right now, because typically they don't get involved with things like that. And we want to see more of that. We want to see more so that they can be part of the greater community of kids that are involved in Michigan Tech or at CMU, like Raquel is, and so many great things. We got a lot of great schools here in our area, Saginaw Valley State University, Delta College. Chandler is involved with those universities and college, right, Chandler?
I was for a while.
Yeah, and
maybe I should get involved again.
Yes, but
I challenge you to give of yourself.
That's what makes him the great producer he is of Mi Gente on Air. So I just want to mention, earlier I said WSGW is the winners of 9 Michigan Association of Broadcast Awards this year, including 7 Best ofs, 1 Merit Award, and Station of the Year for 2021. So isn't that great? And I am very proud to be here with Mi Gente on Air as part of the WSGW family. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being with us here tonight. And I hope you will continue to tune in and share Mi Gente on Air and the live stream, as well as listen on Sunday nights, 8 p.m., 100.5 FM and 790 AM. Adios.